What's going on, foodies? We are back for another episode. This is episode 6 of the Bigger Than Food podcast. I have a different scenery today. We're actually outside in Oklahoma City at one of the amazing parks in the central located area, right just north of downtown Oklahoma City. And so, as you saw, we're going to talk about how to find your ideal client. So I'm wearing this shirt today. It's a TSP Live, and TSP Live stands for Traffic, Sales, and Profit. Amazing conference. I got a chance to attend in the Atlanta area at the Avalon Hotel. When I tell y'all, I was more than inspired. I was more than excited about the information I learned. It was a conference like 1,500 Black entrepreneurs and professionals from all across the country, just converging down in Atlanta, Georgia at the Avalon Hotel. We talked to Kathy Hughes, who was the first African-American woman to own a publicly syndicated radio network, urban radio, just a trailblazer, Jermaine Dupree, so many guests. But let me dive into it because I don't want to belabor any time. You know, we took a couple of weeks off to regroup together. But let me tell you a question I often get from entrepreneurs and business owners. We're trying to increase the traffic, to trying to attract customers. So then I return and ask him this question. Who is your ideal customer? Now, many of you know me from the restaurant space. So OKC Black Eats provides revenue-generating solutions for Black-owned restaurants and small businesses. And I get this question, especially in the restaurant space. How do we get more customers into our restaurant or our food truck? So when I ask them, so who is your ideal customer? It's very general. It becomes anybody who loves good food. Well, I think that's a good start, but you have to get more specific, not specific, more specific in the type of ideal customer that you want. So ask yourself, you have this passion that's now you've turned into a business. But can you take that passion and turn it into a profit? Not like, the church profit, but turn it into a profitable idea. Yes, you can. So some of you may have started a business because maybe your mother or your grandmother was a seamstress and they sewed your clothes or made some unique designs as a kid. And maybe you got teased and you were like, you know what? Because of that influence, I'm going to create a retail shop. Maybe that could be the reason. Maybe it was you were living in a community that was subjected to food apartheid. Food apartheid is legislation being used to pull nutritious resources outside of that community. So you were subjected to not having access to affordable foods, or even just beyond the food space, but just with medical care, healthcare, dental, etc. So you decided that you're going to start a nonprofit for a food pantry. You see, these passions that we have can lead to us creating a profitable business, but in every scenario, you have to think about who is the ideal customer that I need to attract to my business. And here's the next question. You have to ask yourself, who do you really want to work with? Now, that's a tough one because when you start off with this journey, you often think that, hey, you know what? My family and friends don't support me. Let me just free everybody who has family and friends that you've been disappointed by. Free them. Just free your family and friends and let them just be your family and friends. Take the pressure off of them. Because guess what? If you let your family and friends just be family and friend to you, they will support you in a way emotionally and wrap around and show up that you haven't had. So now you got to figure out who will buy my product or service. So there was this thing we learned at TSP Live. It's called an avatar. You probably heard about the avatar, a cartoon thing. But if you were to design the ideal looking customer, what does that customer look like? And we broke it down to things such as what is your audience and what is the segment? Here's the difference. So your audience are your consumers, the people at the top of your funnel. Let's go back to the food space. So my audience might be people who are 25 to 44 who enjoy seafood. That's your audience. It's very broad. It casts a wide net. But when you add attributes such as I'm looking for a someone between 25 and 44 that loves seafood. Now you're going down in the funnel. That is that loves soccer, that loves sports. Now you're adding those different attributes on. So now you have a segment of the population. As an example, in OKC Black Eats, we are targeting Black-owned restaurants, food trucks, and chefs and small businesses. Because we are adding Black-owned to it, now we go from a large audience that were people who were wanting to support 25 to 44, 25 to 44 who enjoy seafood. But a segment becomes when I start to pick down certain attributes to make my funnel smaller. What I've learned is that you can have an audience that supports your segment. So what I mean by that? An audience that supports a segment. You know what? Glad you asked that question because I got an answer for you. So OKC Black Eats, we support Black-owned businesses. I didn't say that we are a business that encourages Black or African American people to support Black-owned businesses. The messaging is I need an audience that supports the Black-owned business. Does that make sense? Does that kind of ring a bell for you? We need the audience is you're casting a wide net to get more customers into your business. Okay, so now that we talked about, I've shared with you about the audience and the segment, and it's your ideal customer. Here's some questions I want you to think about. I hope you have your pen and paper ready because I want you to understand how you can find your ideal client, your best client. Now, this applies for if you are in medical, nonprofit, you are, I don't know, sports team, whatever the industry is, you have to ask yourself, who is my ideal client that you want to work with? Can I be transparent for a moment? I was operating, I have an executive MBA degree. So in graduate school, in business school, what they often do is they talk about this funnel. And there's some great things you learn in graduate school, but they never taught you how to be an entrepreneur. That's my experience. That's just my truth. So you move down the funnel in the activity, and then you start high and you get down low. I'm talking about funnel activity. I'm not talking about the customer, the audience at this moment in the conversation. I want you to think about your funnel activity. We spend a lot of time with people that may not be able to afford our services. This is not a slight, and this is no way implying that you have to be expensive at all. But what I'm wanting to convey is you need to spend more time with the people who want, need, and can afford your product or service. Now, it doesn't matter where, it really doesn't matter if you are a nonprofit. It doesn't matter if you are nonprofit, for-profit. You want to spend time with the people who are helping you generate revenue. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you think about turning that funnel upside down, where the top 2% of your funnel, the buyers, those people, you spend more time with them at the top of the funnel, well, upside down cone, at the top of your pyramid than at the bottom. Please do not take this as you are going to ignore people who are interested or may not be able to afford. That is not the conversation. I want to put it right in the right context. But you want to spend time with people who are able to afford and want your funnel. So I'll go back to the TSP Live conference. I was talking to someone that I met, great person, been in radio, and she looked me dead in the face and she said, Apollo, you're spending too much time with people trying to convince them to buy something that they need, they don't want to pay for. Listen, I was so open to what she said because she was experienced. She knew what she was doing. And I need to hear from someone who's been doing it. And it wasn't a slight, it wasn't in a bad way. But when we create things from our passions, we want to give people more than what they might be ready for. So with the bottom of your pyramid, you're not alienating them, but you just might have to give them more information and education to get them to the top where the 2% of buyers are. Because the people at the top of your ideal client, they want to spend more time with you. You have identified that they have attributes or personalities or values that align with you to spend more time with them. So I want you to write some things down. Oh, we got a notepad and a pen, or even just type this out on your phone as some notes. Ask yourself, in your industry, which clients are the most profitable for the product or service that you have? Who is the most profitable? Now, you may not know who that person is, so I'll give you some resources that you can find to know in that industry what are the probably more ideal clients. And I hope y'all can hear me because it's a little windy out here, but I need to be outside today in this beautiful weather. You can also go to your local tech centers, your vocational schools. They have a business library that tells you by industry more information about the ideal, the history trends of customers. Saw something behind me. I didn't know what it was. Oh, it's my bag. Sorry about that, y'all. So you want to find out who they are. So let's go back to your audience. Because we've been told, let's talk specifically for Black-owned businesses. The implication is if I'm a Black-owned business, I'm only attracting Black-owned Black customers or African Americans. That's it. That's the implication. Because our purpose is to have something that benefits Black people, right? True. And we are. And what we create as our company benefits Black communities and Black people. But for my business to get 6 figures and beyond, I need to broaden my net. Think about it. If you have a shirt or a service, you're an electrician, maybe you're an engineer, maybe you learn how to create an app, you have a service to provide, you have a commercial residential cleaning service, maybe you even provide services for seniors. Is that service that you provide only available only for Black people? Or only for the Asian community? Or the Hispanic community? Is only for your identified community? Is it the only one? No. Somebody's looking for you. So in a small market like Oklahoma City, you want to get a broad and wide net. In the metro areas, more than 1 million people. Across the state, there's more than 3 million people. Broaden a wide net to let everyone know what you offer, although your product or service is for the intention of benefiting your identified community. So, 1, which clients are most profitable? So you might want to say, my client is 25 to 44 in the food space. It might be women 25 to 44 that live in Oklahoma. Why not? Right? Then you have to drill down. Who spends? Who really needs your? This wind is kicking up, y'all, and I really hope y'all can hear me. But I'm going to keep going. So then, when you think about who's the most profitable, if you have an existing business, of those businesses, of those clients that you served, who spent money with you? Now, this is where, when you sell tickets online or in person, you get their customer information and you get to figure out who they are. You know what? Maybe you didn't collect information. I'm going to give you a secret. This wind is kicking up. I hope y'all can still hear me. If you go to your insights on Facebook and Instagram, they tell you who is looking at your business. Now, that's why you need a business profile. Now, I know you have creator profiles, digital creator profiles you can change to on your personal brand, but you need to look at your business, create a business page, and look at that data to figure out who they are, what age demographic, and where they are located, to know where you need to target. Another part, what I want you to think about is, of those people who have purchased from you, again, let's say you did not have an online tool to purchase. you want to think about, let's take people who have not found you online. Why did they buy from you so quickly? Let's say it is a family member or a friend. They bought from you because they're your friends, but they also support you. So ask them, why did you buy from me? Aside from knowing you, why did you buy from me? And then look at who pays on time. Because what you're looking at is now, because you've identified who your ideal client is, you know where they are, what their attributes are, and their buying patterns. So it would benefit you to have a customer that spends more with you over time than a customer that only buys from you once. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you have a t-shirt apparel, merchandise line. Your shirt costs $20. They bought one shirt. That's it. But if you had more merchandise options to go with that shirt, maybe it's a wristband. I got these bands here for Juneteenth, and then my cousin and his wife had Brooklyn Strong. She passed away some years ago, so we're always thinking about it, commemorating her. But you have a t-shirt, wristband, hat, a satchel, a bag, man, person, whatever you want to call them. Now they're buying more from you over the course of 1 year. So that $20 buyer could be a $200 buyer. You understand what I mean? So you can look at your existing customers and say, hey, I want them to spend more money with me over time. So how would it have been if you had, let's say, 200 customers? Let's make it easy. You had 10 customers who went from spending $20, that's $200, to spending $200 in a month. 10 customers spending $200, that's $2,000 from those loyal customers. Is that making sense? I really hope it is, and I really hope y'all can hear me well. I have this lapel mic here, so hoping that's helping with the sound. And then as you figured out those who spend more money for a long duration with you, then you also want to ask them more questions. The more data you get, the better when you're trying to, when you are not trying, when you are identifying your ideal client. I want to share a quick story with you so that way you can understand how these things have worked for us. So living in a small market like Oklahoma City, people often assume there are not enough buyers. There are not enough people. What I've learned is if I put my brand in front of people more often and consistently and frequently, I'll attract more customers. So the success of the brands that OKC Black Eats creates is not to say that we sold out, because we often do. But we get high engagement because we are consistently and regularly putting our brand out in front of people. Now, whether that's paid or non-paid ads, whether that is showing up at networking events and building relationships. So when we first started off in 2017, didn't have a network. As many of you know, I moved back to Oklahoma from Houston. So I didn't have a network. So I had to build a network. So we went from zero to now over, what we're looking at 6 years later, or 5 years in business, going on full time, to having an email list of over 100,000 emails. How did we get there? Because we were consistently doing what others did not want to do. Consistency breeds discipline, and discipline is the formula for success. And I believe everyone has the opportunity to do that. And we have some amazing people, some amazing talent here in Oklahoma. So we have to change our mind on how we talk about what we offer to the marketplace. Especially if you have a passion and something that you love, you have to truly look at that and figure out, is this passion that I have profitable? Going through some reflective things ourselves on determining, are we truly profitable in areas that we need to be profitable? So we've had to make some changes that are uncomfortable, but what in that moment of being uncomfortable can breed you the best moments of your life in your business. And personally, we were often taught that you work really hard for a long period of time and we enjoy the latter half of our life. But what if you could enjoy most of your life by working hard for a few years and putting yourself in position to enjoy the latter half without working as hard. What if you could do that? I said, what if you could do that? I'm telling you, you can do that, but you must identify who your client is. Now, we talked about who your ideal client is. Now, let's talk about who your ideal client is not. We've all had them. We've all had those customers that have been a thorn in our sides, and maybe they're unreasonable with their requests. But you also have to think about who are the people you do not want to work with. So that's the part in graduate school or that they don't teach you, but you learn in entrepreneurship. Who are the customers you don't want to work with? But here's how you identify that. What services do you offer? What products do you offer have the lowest return on your investment? Are you putting money in areas of your business in branding, marketing, operations, promotions, inventory that's getting a low return just because you want it accessible to people? That investment's probably costing you a lot of money. What clients are hard to reach or communicate with? What's your communication style? If you were to look at your ideal customer and how ideally you want them to communicate with you back and forth, think about that person or that client or that organizational business. And think about on the opposite side. Who do you not want to work with? Do they respond back to emails? They're terrible at texting back, or they call you in the late night hours. They are crossing boundaries that you laid down. Like those people are the ones that you don't want to work with. They will require a lot of your time, and you're not going to get a lot of return. But I'm not telling you what I don't know. I'm telling you what I experienced. And what clients cause you the most stress or trouble? These are just questions that you have to consider. And ones who ask for refunds, unreasonable refunds that may not give you the opportunity to fix the issue. I was talking to another colleague, someone that I met at the TSP Live conference. Yeah, I'm kind of promoting because I'm come off the high from that conference. And this is what he said. They sell a lot on e-commerce online through Amazon. So instead of waiting on the return and the process or the warranties that they purchase, their company has bought insurance, and they tell their customers, hey, send it back to me directly, and they'll send them another product after they've had a chance to assess it. Here's what I love about that. They're sending it back to themselves. They already have insurance. They have chosen as a company to deal with Amazon. So the company will deal with Amazon, and the customer that bought the product or service is getting something back sooner. And now they have a loyal customer because that customer feels like they worked with them directly. They provided exceptional service for them. Now, do you think if you took that route that you would have more customers wanting to come back and spend more with you over the course of a lifetime? I think so. Well, not only do I think so, it's because that's what they told me. All right, and then here are a few other, now I'm gonna close this with some demographic information that is helpful to you. When you're developing your avatar, here are a few things. Again, I hope you still have your pen and paper down because I want to let you know what you need to think about in terms of demographic. It's an easy way to start with basic demographic information, and much of this you'll find on the insights of your Facebook and Instagram. It's age, gender, generation, millennials, Gen Zer, Gen X like me, baby boomers. I don't know what's next after that. But those generations have different buying patterns and how to keep your attention. Education level. Are they high school graduates, college, professional degrees, master degrees? Just because they have continual learning or certificate does not mean that they're the most ideal. It just means that that customer has a pattern of wanting to learn more, which can be useful if you have like educational resources or online tutorials that might fit their audience. Income level, occupation, job title, years of experience, and other, and their name. You want to put those things down to understand who your ideal customer is so that you know when you're out vending or you're promoting, you know exactly who you are looking to sell your product and service to and spend time with. And I'm gonna close with this. Here's why knowing your data is important. Brand collaboration. There are major brands who want to be in front of your audience because you have a direct relationship as a small business or an entrepreneur. They want to be in front of your audience. So if you know your audience is 25 to 44, 72% women, 25%, 72% female, 25% male, half a percent identified as unknown. All these other parts, they spend an average of $100 and going out per month, or you have those who are willing to spend up to $150 for special events. You know this data because you built your avatar. Take that avatar and align yourself with brands that would want to work with you. What we learned from coming out of COVID is that small businesses are now the most sought after in partnerships because we have the customers that big corporations want to buy. So that's my time for the Bigger Than Food podcast. This is episode 6. So you'll be able to watch the replay. It'll be posted online. Do me a favor, go to YouTube and please subscribe. Hit that notification button so you know the next episode coming up next week. I met some amazing people in Atlanta that will join our podcast. But let me do a quick recap for those of you who are just joining on how you identify your ideal avatar. One, you want to look at your clients who are the most profitable for you. 2, who spends with you longer? You also need to ask yourself, what type of client do you want to work with? Who's your ideal customer? And spend more time with those people and less with those who are not your ideal customer, who give you a bunch of hassle and all that kind of not so good stuff. And also, you should also identify, I said also like 3 times. You should identify who are the clients that you do not want to work with. That might be tough because in your mind, you're wanting to help people from your passion, but take your passions and allow them to be profitable. And the last thing, second to the last thing, let your friends and family be your friends and family. Take the pressure off of them not buying or spending with you. Let them just be your friends and family because they may not be your ideal avatar, your ideal client to work with. They are just your friends and family. Last thing, last thing. When you understand who your avatar is and you know the data, you become the ideal person for brands to want to partner with. Now, I share this information because it's from experience. I'm also learning. But this type of information, knowing who your ideal customer is, allows you to take power and push your brand and increase revenues no matter what market you are in, whether it's Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago, or even markets that people may not think about. If you look at the fastest growing cities, Oklahoma is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. And I want you to think about this, especially if you are in a small market or you're in a place like Oklahoma City or Tulsa. You can make it here, but you need to identify who your ideal client is. Sit down and think about it. You can do it. You can thrive and be successful here. You can do it here. You can do it anywhere. All right, y'all. That is episode 6 of the Bigger Than Food podcast. We are back in the swing of things. So listen to this replay. Do me a favor. Share this, like this video to someone that you think needs to know about how to find their ideal client and position them to be a profitable business. Last thing, make sure you go over to YouTube, to youtube.com/BlackEats. Go to our playlist for Bigger Than Food podcast. Please hit the subscribe and notification button so you can hear the episode next week. Next week, we have another chef talking about food and food influences and sharing great tips on how to be a successful business in the restaurant space. But if you also know people who like to join our podcast, send us a message. We love to have them on our podcast. And like we always say, 2 things that we say. Be intentional with your spending and support a Black-owned business today. And our mission is bigger than food. All right, y'all. See you next week. on the Bigger Than Food podcast.